Are we live?
We are, I think we're live. Good morning, folks. My name is Rachel Wilkins. Welcome to Coffee with Artists. We are live this morning. We're joined by Flore, contemporary artist originally from New York, but now based in in Miami, right now in Florida. Joining us from his very sunny studio this morning. So welcome to the show. It's great to have you.
How are you? How you been? How's everything?
I'm good. So how are you coping with this new normal, this lockdown we're experiencing?
The quarantine's not too bad because I'm always painting in the studio kind of alone anyway, but I just went to like FedEx yesterday and there's like these circles you have to step on like to keep the distance between each people, and there's only 2 people allowed in at a time, and I don't know, all that is not going to be easy to get used to. And the mask, it's like 90 degrees in Miami and it's humid. So like, I can't even imagine like old people breathing with the mask. I hope this gets better soon.
Yeah, that's something that we're just starting to heat up here in New York, New Jersey. So I think with those masks, it's going to be a little brutal. But if anything,
where are you at? Where are you at?
I'm in Secaucus, New Jersey. So just
okay.
Jersey City. But I was thinking about artists traditionally, or at least street artists, have been wearing kind of ventilator masks for forever to protect themselves. Is it something that is a big shift for you? Do you wear them when you paint?
I'm not wearing masks when I paint ever, so which I should, but I just don't. It's hard to breathe. It's not for me. When I do like spray painting, I try to wear a mask when it's like outdoors and there's like a lot of spray painting. But in my studio, I'm really not wearing a mask. But yeah, I went to Japan and that's part of their culture. So, and I thought it was odd then to have it on in the subway and stuff. But now we're in America and we're having to do it. It's kind of, I don't know. I try not to go out. I'm at the point where I'm just kind of ordering everything, and Amazon's my best friend. So that's what I'm trying to do. But I don't know. I'm not too thrilled about the mask.
So tell us a little bit about how it's impacted you creatively. Have you found, like some others have shared, that you have kind of hit a little bit of a creative wall, or are you feeling inspired and motivated? What's it look like for you?
Yeah, I mean, it's been nice having the time alone and kind of reflecting on everything, and everything is kind of put on hold. So you're not missing out on anything and kind of able to just focus on the work. Thrilled about the mask. I'm hearing an echo.
Hang on, we're having some tech issues here. Bear with me. I'm sorry. Go ahead. What was the question?
I was just saying, it's making it a lot easier to focus just on the work because there's nothing else. So it's just all the other things that were kind of distracting kind of got put on hold, and the only thing that didn't was the painting and the creating. So I'm enjoying it. It's just, I miss my family. I'm in Miami and my whole family's in New York, and New York's still not that good at this point. I don't know. I'm just going by what people are telling me, that it's still a little messy there. So I haven't had the chance to go back. So I'm just kind of FaceTiming my family and just making art. That's what I've been doing for the past, I guess, 3 months.
That's awesome. So tell us about the move. When I met you, you were down in Miami, kind of, exhibiting during Basel Week.
Yeah, that was the first time I exhibited in Miami when I met you.
Right.
When I exhibited with you guys. That was my first experience with Basel. And at that time, I was living in Asbury Park, New Jersey. I wasn't even living in Miami at that time. It's just, I can't stand the winters. So I've been spending the last 4 years in Miami just for the winter.
Wow.
And now I just bought a loft to paint in Miami. It's nice. It's nice to have space, because I was painting in the East Village last year in a studio apartment, and it wasn't fun. It wasn't as productive as it is to have a bunch of space.
Have you found that it kind of goes without saying, but obviously your scale of the work that you're working on is obviously much bigger. Have you found it's influenced the style at all, the move?
Yeah. I really like my paintings on a large scale. The bigger I can paint them, I think the better. I feel that they're better when they're on a larger scale. Now I've been painting a lot in a different style. I started painting like these abstract kind of expressionism, New York style, de Kooning-esque, Cy Twombly kind of influence on large scales for the past like 3 years. So for the whole quarantine, I've been just kind of focused on that opposed to the style that's behind me, which I'm working on a few commissions for the gallery at the moment. But yeah, the space is definitely influencing the work because I can paint much bigger because I can store the canvases here.
Right.
It's great.
I mean, that's kind of an artist dream come true to have that much space.
Yeah. I mean, I like enjoying. I enjoy painting in small spaces as well, but this is nice to have a nice open space and the lighting is great. So, but awesome. I miss New York. I do.
Well, I mean, you can't do a whole lot in New York right now because you can't move around. So
yeah.
By the time things come back around, you'll be back.
Yeah, that's the plan.
I want to talk a little bit about your early days. You know, when I was doing my research, I found that, you know, you obviously grew up as a young boy in Brooklyn. And I read that your Aunt Wheezy picked you up and took you to the Museum of Modern Art. Tell us about
I just got off the phone with her like half an hour ago. So my Aunt Louise, but we call her Wheezy, she was an artist. Like she was, my mom's younger sister also an artist. So they were always kind of pushing me towards the arts, but she used to take me to the museums in Manhattan and just show me all this cool stuff. But I was really a young boy at the time. But she's a major influence. Like that, my mom's side of the family are like, they're all artists and crazy people, and they're just a big influence on everything I do, for sure.
So you come out of the museum and you go into school, and the teacher asks you, what do you want to be when you grow up? And what do you say?
I said I wanted to be a painter. And she goes, oh, my husband's a painter. And I said, oh, like an artist, like in the museum? I was like maybe in the 3rd grade. I don't even know. I was very young. But I recall this because my mom tells the story all the time because she was in the back of the classroom. So I said, no, like a painter in the museum. And she goes, oh, I thought you meant like paint, you know, houses and stuff. And I was like, no, I want to be in a museum one day. And that was kind of something that was always in the back of my head growing up. But my father's a finance guy, like a Wall Street guy. So he was always telling me like, you're crazy. You can't make any money like being an artist. So you need a plan B, you need a backup. And my whole life, I kind of lived in fear of that. And then when I was about like 30 years old, I quit my job and I just painted full time. And it's been 7 years since.
Wow.
I just turned 37. So it's been a roller coaster for sure. But every day, like I'm still painting, and I'm just excited as I was when I met you. Like when I first met you, that was my first Basel. And I didn't know anything about the industry. I didn't know anything about art in general when it came to showing your art and being a professional. And yeah, you caught me very raw and very young in my career for sure.
Right out the back of a U-Haul truck.
Yes. Oh my God. That was a nightmare. And then all those paintings, I couldn't even ship them back. So I legitimately sold all those paintings out of the U-Haul truck for nothing. For like nothing. But the days.
I mean, it was a crazy experience. That we were pretty scrappy then too. You know, we would just kind of throw enough walls and a little space, you know, in the middle of Wynwood, and you know. But it's such a. I think for anybody who's not, you know, experienced Art Basel, it's such an amazing experience for an artist just to be around that energy. Like, tell us about your experiences being involved in that.
No, yeah, we had a great group of artists too for that show. I mean, Wisby.
Right.
There was a couple other artists, right? Yeah. I mean, that was a great experience, and I still talk to those artists. I still hang out with them. You know, it's nice. It was, and it just kept going. I mean, now it's like I think my 6th or 7th Basel participating, and it's just like time flies. But that experience as an artist was was great, and it still is. It still is that energy of having all the artists in Miami, and we all get to like see each other, hang out a little bit, talk. It's nice. It's nice. I'm looking forward to it. Hopefully, we have it this year.
Yeah, I don't know whether that's going to happen, and I think some of
Yeah.
the big players were sold last year. I heard Art Miami was sold to a major company, so I guess we'll see what happens with that.
Yeah.
It's going to be
Yeah.
interesting. Have you been impacted with in terms of having shows canceled and things like that?
Yeah, so I was planning to do a show, a solo exhibition with this new modern series I was doing, which I kind of did a small little opening before the virus hit. It was like at the end of February. So, I mean, it really didn't like get that much exposure as I wanted it to do, but we sold a bunch of paintings from the series. But now that I've been painting for 3 months and I have 40 paintings, I'm ready for a show. So it's good. This worked out because now I'm prepared, more prepared than I was, and the work's better. The work's stronger. I had time to like really live with it and not do anything else. So it's good. I'm excited for when this is all a little better and people are out and about, and I'm gonna put on a show for sure.
So your work has evolved a lot over the time, just the 7 years. But you're somebody who's had a very clear visual language from the get-go. Really, this style that you have in the background is very. You immediately know it's one of your works. Why did you decide to shift into this more abstract expressionist style?
Well, the style in the back, the urban cubism style, that's what I'm calling it. It's evolved a lot. But there's certain elements that kind of take away some freedom for me because it's got to always look a certain way and it's structured and I paint them all differently. They're all kind of off the top of my head, but they're all kind of the same equation. So I was getting not sick of it because I really enjoy still painting them, but I wanted more. I just wanted more freedom in the painting. And I personally, if I could afford these paintings like Joan Mitchell and Cy Twombly and de Kooning, if I can own one, I would. Those are the paintings I'm drawn to. So I was like, I always wanted to paint that way, but I couldn't really paint that way without this style. This kind of gave me the hours in the studio to kind of give me confidence and master just gesture in general and emotion and color and all these things that need to be very prominent in a abstract expressionism painting because that's all you have. So it's not, there's no graphic there or anything. It's just pure gesture and feeling. And I needed this in order to be able to paint the paintings that I'm painting now. And I always wanted to paint in that style. And now I think I'm maybe 100 paintings into the series. For 3 years, it's been going on for 3 years, and this series, I don't know, maybe two or 3,000 at this point, maybe 2,000. Yeah. This is like I've painted a ton of urban cubism works over the last 6 or 7 years.
That's
Yeah, I paint every day. It's been every single day. Like I have a routine, like wake up, I smoke a joint, and then I go paint until like 1, 2 in the afternoon. And that's been happening every day for years. And it's just my meditation. It's what I do in the morning to just kind of start my day and I'm fresh. And when my mind's kind of fresh, I make the best art. So over that time, I'm accumulating a big body of work, and I'm kind of so caught up in it, I don't even have time to really like sit and reflect like, oh my God, like I made all this work. And I kind of like it that way because as soon as I stop and I sit and think, I tend to mess things up. So yeah, I mean, the new style is just a derivative. It's all going to be a derivative from this because this is my DNA. This is I grew up in Brooklyn and I was really into Keith Haring and into hip hop and just that whole graffiti life. I lived it until I was a senior in high school. I mean, I wrote graffiti everywhere, notebooks, whatever I could for a long time. And it took me a while to like teach myself, because New York graffiti, there's like a hand style. Like the way that you write is very important. And to have a nice hand style takes time. And I was practicing the alphabet since like I'm in 7th grade, like writing different letters to try to make, pieces look a certain way. And that's just been the DNA that's been stuck in this and going further, just my roots are always going to be in this type of style.
So tell us about those early days as a kid in Brooklyn. For anybody who's, not from the New York metropolitan area, New York looked very different in what I'm guessing the early 90s.
Yeah, so
tell us about that.
When I was growing up in Brooklyn, everything was kind of tagged. It was, I just so happened to grow up in this neighborhood called Marine Park. And there was like local graffiti writers that I just so happened to be friends with them through my older brother and a few people that lived in my neighborhood that were older than me. So like I got to experience graffiti, like going out late at night, black hoodies, and just watching these 15, 16-year-old kids like defacing property, basically, but getting their fame. Like in the neighborhood, these guys were legends. They were like everywhere. I mean, this like bunch of guys that I grew up with, they were tagging 7 days a week, just nothing else to do. And then the trains too looked completely different. The trains actually had graffiti on them, in them. All the windows were etched with people would scratch their tags into the windows. Now the trains are clean. Well, not clean, but they're not graffiti all over them.
Right.
It was completely different. The landscape was different. And even the culture was different. Like getting up on Saturday morning and standing outside the sneaker store for like Jordans to come out. And now it's like online raffles and stuff. And there was lines around the block to get like sneakers, and the music was, hip hop music was at its peak. I mean, Biggie's album, Wu-Tang's first album, that's what I grew up on. And then you take that and you mash it up with art. And Brooklyn and New York was like gritty. And you couldn't go to certain parts of Brooklyn, certain parts of Manhattan. Now it's completely different. Like things are gentrified and it's a different New York. But when I grew up, I experienced a lot of this. And I was a little too young to experience like Basquiat and Keith Haring. But Keith Haring, I had like a Swatch watch that had Keith Haring on it. And my aunt, Wheezy, exposed me to these artists at a young age. So New York for me growing up was an experience that not a lot of people can understand, even if they live in New York now, and if they're not from there, because like growing up and like having a tight-knit neighborhood where I can go 10 blocks and my mother and my father know that the neighborhood will take care of me, because like they have friends on that side of the street, or they have friends on that block that know whose kids are who, so it was just freedom. I'm like young, 10 years old, like in the street, in the avenue, on Flatbush Avenue, just like hanging out with older kids, and it was okay. It wasn't the world it is now. It was a great experience, and I wouldn't change it for anything, for sure. And it definitely influenced my artwork, and I think people understand that. I think my artwork screams New York. I hope it does.
100%. And I think it's interesting that you had that kind of that contrast of like the grittiness of the streets of Brooklyn and, vandalism, which it was considered, right? The street art, technically it was a crime what they were doing. You're running around with these kids. But then you go into the Museum of Modern Art with your Aunt Weezy, like two sets of influences there, which I think you can kind of see in your work, because there is a maturity to your work. There is an element of sophistication, despite you drawing from this kind of urban landscape.
I mean, that's my goal. I just want integrity. I need my work to be held. I know that when it comes to like graffiti and street art, there's some people that kind of look at it a certain way and they don't hold it as high as it should be when it comes to like blue chip art and things like that. But I need to have everybody accept it, not just the people from New York or not just a young culture. I want someone who's 67 years old, who's collected, a certain conservative artwork to say, hey, I can appreciate that. I may not want to have it in my collection, but I can appreciate it. I can see the value in it. Like, that's very important to me. It's extremely important to me. So like when I started painting the modern series, that was kind of a little bit showing like, hey, I'm not just one trick pony. I'm not just I don't even really call myself a street artist. I'm just, it's urban. It's New York. I'm not just that. Like, I can paint a painting that looks old and looks traditional because I went to college for art. I mean, I have a 2-year degree in communication design. So like I was taking a lot of painting classes in college because I couldn't stand science and math. So I took all the art classes I could at like Rutgers University and some community college in New Jersey called Brookdale. So I was just trying to get that traditional education as like color theory and the way to really paint an oil painting of a landscape. Like, I have all that. I can do that. I can paint like a landscape and I can paint a portrait. It's just, I don't want to be known for just this. So like I want my work to be that museum quality feeling, because like I was exposed to that when I was young. I was in the museum. I enjoyed it. I understood the value, I think, of art young, because my aunt was just like telling me all these wonderful things, like made Andy Warhol look like a superhero. Like it was I appreciate it so much because that carried into my work. So like that roots carried into my work.
I think it's so important we have somebody who shows us the way or champions us as artists, especially when you come from a family where maybe there isn't creative folks or the idea of success is finance or accounting or something more traditional. So that's great that you had Aunt Wheezy in your corner.
Yeah. And my Aunt Tony too. She's still, it was her birthday yesterday. She was always making me draw like Ninja Turtles or anything, Disney characters. She was always pushing that on me when I was young, because she was constantly babysitting me because she lived on the same block in Brooklyn as me. So it was just, and we're a huge Italian family. So it was nice to have that. And my grandmother was a seamstress. So she used to like be sketching wedding dresses and then go make them. Like the talent, she's the real talent of my family, because she would draw wedding dresses realistically, then sit down and make them from scratch. Like, she made my mother's wedding dress, she made all my aunt's wedding dresses, and like everybody in the neighborhood. And then she did dresses for Cindy Crawford, and she worked for Jimmy's in Manhattan, which was like a huge, like high-end, at the time, Jimmy's was like the only place you could get like Louis Vuitton and like high-end fashion gowns and dresses and stuff. And she was the head seamstress for them for about 50 years.
It's amazing.
So, yeah, it was cool. It was cool growing up with these crazy women. Yeah, it definitely influenced who I am as a man, for sure.
That's awesome. So you have this extensive body of work. You're talking about in the thousands, not the hundreds. You have this 7 years of creating. But you also have, in addition to the work, you also have a pretty robust art business. You're somebody who is, had gallery representation. You're very consistent on social media. You have a very clear brand. Tell us about how you really developed those skills and what they've enabled you to be able to do with your business.
So it's just trial and error. I've had a lot of bad experience with galleries. I learned my lessons. And when it comes to branding, I just always said to myself, it's got to be authentic. I can't brand myself as someone who I'm not, or something that doesn't look proper. So like my Instagram and all the things I do, it's just me. Like I have no management, I have no marketing team. I have my galleries that sell my work, but everything visual I touch. Like it needs to look a certain way, and I need to be true to who I am, and I need the people who collect my work need to know that, need to know kind of who I am and what I'm about, because that's what my work is. It's like a direct reflection of me. So when it comes to the business end, I'm just trying to be authentic and original, and I try to be fair because I'm just so soft when it comes to the business side. I'm giving paintings away to people because like they give me this beautiful story, like how I inspired them, or they love my paintings but they can't afford it. So I have like direct messages from collectors, young collectors that are like, I can't afford a painting. And then I'll be like, okay, I'm gonna release a drawing series, original drawings. I drew like, I don't know, maybe 20 drawings, and I just put them on my Instagram for like $400. Like anybody who wants original drawing that said they can't afford my work, because I hate to hear that. I don't know, maybe I should just be a better businessman and not be so soft, but it's personal. This is my art. So these people are telling you they love my work and they can't afford it. And I'm just like, wow, like I didn't like the way that made me feel. So like as a businessman, I'm like, how can I please everybody and still not dilute my brand? Because that's the last thing I want to do. My goals, I want to be in a museum. Like I want to like be an 80-year-old man, like still painting and still like just still being relevant. Like that's my goal. So when people say these things to me, I try to be the best businessman as it can be and still not dilute the brand, because I don't want to put out a million prints, and I want people to have something special. Because I just started doing prints 2 years ago. Like my first print was like 2 years ago, and I've only released I think 3 altogether or 4 altogether, which is not a bad thing. I don't think prints are a bad thing. It's just structuring my business. I want my art to reach a certain point before I start really releasing a lot of prints. I want my originals to reach their full potential before I start chopping it down, you know? But the business end of things, I worked on Wall Street. I was a businessman. Like I worked on the commodity exchange on Wall Street with a bunch of wild traders on the phone all day in the pit for 2 or 3 years. And then I slowly started getting creative with my job. So making money in business has always been a part of my life. So I'm not the average artist that is really just like a dreamy person that gets kind of taken advantage of in the business aspect because they just never had that development. So, but the business is just, over time, I was very like nervous about doing it a certain way, but I'm realizing that there is no way, like certain way. You have to structure it the way that it works for you, and you have to be savvy. You can't say yes to everything, and you need to just kind of have a business model. It's just like anything else. And it's just I'm just the type of person that I get a sob story or somebody really, really loving my work, and I'll give them whatever I can. It's just my nature. Maybe a manager would be nice to be the buffer in between, but I don't think anybody right now in my life could represent who I am or my brand is. So like I can't give a manager that responsibility yet. You know, I would love to have a team and have these people do all these things for me so I don't get all sensitive when it comes to like business deals, you know? But
how do you balance it? Because you sound like somebody who's very structured in terms of how you approach your art. Like, you know, you said you do your practice in the morning, but you know, the preparing your website, sending out emails, you know, exchanges on social, that all takes time. Do you have
I know. It's just my balance is sometimes I'll have months where everything is structured, and then other times it's the Tasmanian devil. But I'm up on my emails and social media. I set a time like 1 o'clock and 5 o'clock. That's when I check my emails and my my social media stuff, because 1 o'clock is like a time of the day where lunchtime or whatever it may be. And then 5 o'clock is the end of the day, business day. And anything that's kind of emailed or talked to after 5 o'clock, it can wait until the next day at 1. That way it gives me time in between to kind of like filter through things and give me time to prepare whatever emails or whatever content I'm trying to put out. And I try to keep it at the same times, like during the week. That's the only way I can balance. And then painting always comes first. So if there's a project that I have to do, or a project that I want to do, emails, social media, none of that even matters. Sometimes I don't even look at my Instagram for 2 weeks because I'm working, on a painting or a project. Because I've been doing a lot of interior design work as well. I bought this crazy house.
I wanted to touch on that because you're a little bit of a Renaissance man, in the sense that you are like this 6 foot plus guy from Brooklyn, covered in tattoos. But you have this obsession with the mid-century modern.
Yes. Since I'm about 13 years old, I've been collecting mid-century modern furniture.
Where did that come from?
I don't know. I have no idea. So when I was like really, I don't know, maybe like 10, 13 years old, my parents would leave me home a lot. I have brothers and sisters, older brother, younger sister. So they both worked. So we would be alone a lot in the house doing our thing. I would rearrange the furniture in the whole house. My mother would kill me. She would just be like, "What are you doing? It looks better like this. I'm a young kid, like shouldn't be doing these things." Like it was, and then we had like a tenant in the basement, this older guy. I broke into his apartment, rearranged all his furniture. Like it was just like I saw space a different way always. And then when I got old enough to have my own spaces, my apartments, and I'm collecting furniture, and now I have too many chairs and too many sofas, and now they're in storage. And then I was ready to buy my first home, and I wanted something that was going to really inspire me and be something for my family. So I bought this original Gene Leedy mid-century modern home built in 1963, all original, in the middle of like Tampa and Orlando in Florida. So it's just this an amazing house. And I had this idea for years. And I was like, I want to make it where you walk into the house and everything is period correct. Like everything in the whole home. So it took me about, I'd say, a year to do it. And I did it. And then this really famous photographer who shoots all the mid-century modern properties in Palm Springs, like Frank Sinatra's house, the Stahl house, the Eames house. He has his own book. His name is Dan Chafkin. Amazing photographer. I called him, sent him some photos, and he was like, "Oh, I'll shoot your house, no problem. It's beautiful." And then I'm like, "Yeah, but it's in Florida." He's like, "What?" He was like, "This house looks like in Palm Springs." I said, "No, it's in Florida. It's a very famous house. Gene Leedy he discovered this. He was one of the architects who discovered the Sarasota School of Architecture. So he was like buddies with Frank Lloyd Wright, and there's a huge mid-century modern culture in like Sarasota and St. Pete in Florida, which I didn't know either. I just stumbled upon this. I bought the house off Instagram. Like I've been following this guy on Instagram. He had this insane house. He posts for 2 years, been following this guy. He posts on Instagram, "I'm selling the house." I DM'd him, "How much are you selling the house for?" He told me, I'm like, "Don't even list it. I'll buy it full price. Like I want this house." And I just bought it off Instagram. I didn't even look at it. I knew the house from Instagram. So I designed the house for like a year. The guy came and photographed it. I flew him to photograph the house. And he was still down to photograph it, even though it was in Florida. He like walked into the house and he was very impressed. And I was impressed I felt good because he was impressed, because he shot Frank Sinatra's house and all these people who I look up to. Then Dwell magazine covered it, that was the magazine that like got me really inspired when I was young. I had a subscription to Dwell magazine and I was like 14. And then my first house, they featured it, and they gave me a huge spread, like 7 pages.
Wow.
And then Atomic Ranch, which is the biggest mid-century modern publication, also covered it, and they gave me the center, like whatever you call it, the middle of the magazine.
Right.
So I couldn't believe that. But yeah, that house, I still own it. I rent it out. But yeah, it was a really cool project. I had like a ton of fun doing it. And now I just designed this loft, which I'm almost done with the loft, and it's going to be in Dwell as well. They reached out and they want to cover it, I think. So I'm just waiting to photograph it. It's not finished yet.
So where do you see this passion going? Like this interior design?
I want to collaborate with, I guess, Herman Miller. That's like the manufacturer that manufactured like Eames and all the, like George Nelson, like all the famous furniture from that time. I think Herman Miller was kind of like the IKEA of that time.
Right.
And produced all of it for these beautiful designers. Like these guys are insane. Like I love the lines in the furniture. I think they're like sculptures. They look like sculptures to me. I can, at the end, I can show you my apartment. I have like all famous like pieces in my apartment right now. But I'm just ripping them apart. Like I got this mid-century modern culture. They like are very upset with me. They like on forums, they yell and they like really say nasty things because I'm taking like original pieces and making them one of one. But I'm doing it in a way. So like, for example, I don't know if you're familiar with these designers or.
I love Eames. I'm a big fan of Eames.
Okay, so like I'll take like an Eames chair, an original one. I'll take all the upholstery off and then I'll reupholster it with Alexander Gerard fabric, which is a designer from that time. This collaboration would have never happened, but it could have happened, and I make my own pieces from that. And people are just, the purists are upset because I'm, making something different, and there has to be a certain way, and that's just the way I guess collectors are when it comes to original things. But I want to make something new, so I'm gonna do a modern show and put my furniture into 2S sculptures. Like that's the plan. So I'm just, what a womb chair is?
I think I've got an idea.
Eero Saarinen is the architect / designer. So I just did 2 of those over. I don't know where I'm gonna put them, but I'm getting them reupholstered now. So like I look at them as sculptures. I really do. Like the way that they are, and they're functional. I mean, some of the chairs look like they can get up and walk away. Like they have so much personality and so much design went into them. Like they should be looked at as sculpture. So that's kind of my obsession with mid-century modern furniture, and it's been for a long time. And I just keep buying stuff. I don't know what's wrong with me. It's just like I keep on finding original things, and people are just trying to get rid of things, especially now during this time. Like everybody's, scrounging for money. So everybody's possessions are just like here you go.
I think you should go do like a regression session and see if you were some famous designer during the 60s or something, because it's funny
possible.
This compulsion, it's amazing.
I think I'm becoming a hoarder. It's a problem. But it's okay. It's everything that I'm collecting. I just truly am inspired by. I like being around it. Like I really do. I wouldn't want to be around just regular furniture or regular things. It's just, what's the point? Like if it's just, I don't know. I like things to represent me, like especially if I'm going to live in it.
Yeah. I love that you have that passion for architecture. I think it's just, you talk about like the clean lines and the design. It's something that's very, apparent in your work. And I'm someone too who needs, structure and lines within my work. And I'm very much drawn to like Frank Lloyd Wright's homes. I think they're beautiful. But I want to talk about this quote here from Gene Leedy. He said, "Architecture is a religion. It is an art. My architecture is a celebration of life." What do you...
Gene Leedy, this is what's so beautiful about this. So Gene Leedy's son reached out to me. So the Dwell magazine article came out, and I told Dwell, you better celebrate this man. And they did. They wrote something beautiful about him, and he deserves it because he had a beautiful career. And just so happens, I didn't get to meet him before he died, but the article came out, and he read it in the hospital bed. And his son told me he was very proud, and it was really cool and everything. And then he wound up passing away, like almost maybe like 2 or 3 weeks after.
Wow.
And I mean, the guy had a full career. I think he died like in his 90s, but I mean, he was building buildings in his 80s. That's what I want to be. That's what I'm trying to have a career like that. And the house that he built that I own is incredible. I mean, he put so much detail in it to where certain times of the day, the sun comes through these crazy windows and it lights up the right parts of the house at the right part of the day. I can't explain it. It's a beautiful piece of art. The architecture is just like a painting. It really is. He was so detailed oriented with everything he did. And I just painting in that house and living in that house. I lived in it for about 7 months, and it was great. It's just I got an education in architecture by buying the house. I understand so much more than I did. The whole idea of modernism, like the indoor coming into the outdoor, where it's like you're sharing the space, where like earth is meeting architecture, is amazing. Like I love the whole idea of you being able to open up your living room to the backyard. So I'm watching TV from my courtyard, but I'm outside in the sun. It's beautiful. I mean, I wish everything was kind of put into that much detail, like put into architecture now, and even like the automobiles at that time, the cars and everything. It's just where'd the designers go? I mean, the cars now are really cool, but it's just the functionality of everything is cool. Form and function, like neat. I love that. That's kind of what's drawing me to it, I think, constantly, is that idea that they had that mind that the form and the function have to be one. So it's got to look great, but it's also got to perform. Like, I love that.
It's very Bauhaus.
Yeah, exactly.
So, well, first of all, have you ever thought about designing your own house from scratch?
I did. So my first plan was to take a case study house because they offered the blueprints online to buy just recently. And I was going to build the case study house. Well, it's not really my design. I was just going to build a case study house. I actually wanted to recreate the stall house.
Wow.
But I wanted to interior design it myself. So like I would just take the shell and then all the fixings inside would be me. But it just was going to cost too much money, and I didn't have the right land because it needed to be elevated. It couldn't just be built on flat land. Then the Gene Leedy house came about, and I was like, I need that house. That's the one. Even though it's like in the middle of nowhere, and I can't live there because it's just there's nothing there for me culturally. But it's just a nice place to go with my family. We spent Christmas there together, and it was so cool. Like it's like the Brady Bunch. It's nuts. It's cool.
How do your family respond to this kind of Renaissance man, this, obsessed with all things mid-century modern?
My mom gets it. My father just has no idea what's going on. My dad is like super intelligent, but he's old school Italian guy. So like when I told him I'm quitting my job to paint, he never understood, but now he understands because I'm making a living and I'm doing well and I'm happy and that's what all that matters. But he doesn't understand. He'll like I'll tell him what I'm doing and he'll be like, "What?" He was like, "Why are you buying this old house?" He doesn't understand. I don't think he's an artist. He gets it, but I don't think he has that side of his brain is numbers, so my mom, they understand. My brother and my sister think I'm crazy, but I was always like that. Even when I was a kid, I was always just trying to do what I wanted to do. Like I guess I'm a little selfish in that way, but I just want to do what I want to do. I kind of want to create what I want to create, like with my vision. And I think if I continuously stick to that, I think it's just going to continue to take me on this journey. The universe will guide me in the right direction. As long as I'm fulfilling that need to create and just keep that passion going, I think I'm going to be all right. I might burn myself out, but I'll have fun doing it.
Absolutely. So you talked a lot about your influences growing up, and you mentioned Keith Haring, obviously Basquiat, and George Condo is somebody else I noticed in your research. One of the things you said that is that you wanted to execute at a level that honors their influence. And we've seen a lot of folks, particularly in like the street art environment, referencing Keith Haring and referencing some of these artists that you mentioned, Basquiat particularly. But I think, not that people are doing it badly, but I think you're somebody who's done it in a way that it's subtle enough.
That's the thing. Like, I really feel like artists or people who try to make art, not necessarily artists, just people who are trying to make art in general, I don't think they understand the concept of filtering, because it's one thing to copy. It's another thing to filter. So like, for example, in my paintings that I'm doing now, or we can even use this.
Oh, I think we lost you for a second there. Hang on.
I'm here?
Yeah, we got you.
Good?
Yep.
So like these paintings, when I look at them, I see Keith Haring. Maybe not a lot of people can see that, but I do. But I borrow things, just like little gestures or the idea of the way it was created with the dark black outline, things of that nature, like Keith Haring did. I'm not stealing the baby, the radiant baby. You know what I'm saying? I'm not saying that that's not inspiration. That's stealing. That's not being original. I really feel like, even when it comes to Basquiat, because Basquiat is I feel like there's a lot of artists that worship him, including me, that I think his work is so original that everybody wants to be him in the sense of being an artist. They want to make their paintings look like him. They want to paint a childish looking painting because it's achievable. But the way that he did it, that's his DNA, that's his style. So you can't borrow a style. You can't borrow these main elements from another artist. You need to filter that through yourself and create something completely original in that light, in their light. They spark something in you and you make something completely different. That's how the cycle goes. You can't really take someone else's artwork or their idea and try to do it better than them, because that'll never work out. They did it first and they lived it. You can't take somebody's identity. You just can't. You can't take someone's artwork or identity and blossom off of it. It may work. You may sell 5 or 6 paintings, but that's it. The longevity of it will never ever be, because you're not Basquiat. You're not Keith Haring. You need to take inspiration from them, because that's what they did. They made art to inspire people. That's what artists do. We make things to inspire. You don't have to steal someone's identity to be a good artist. Like it's easy to sell paintings when you make them look like someone's paintings that sell for millions of dollars. Of course, that in business, that works. But if you want to be a true original artist and have a long career, you're going to have to one day make something that's yours. Otherwise, it's not going to work. You can't steal forever. So when I'm saying I'm influenced by George Condo, and I'm influenced by Keith Haring, and I'm influenced by Basquiat, I do borrow a lot from them. I do, but I make it my own. Like the way that I cross things out in my paintings, I take that from Jean-Michel Basquiat. The way that some of the eyes maybe in some of the faces in my paintings, I take that from George Condo maybe, or the teeth, or just little things. I'm borrowing inspiration. I'm creating something completely new from things that I love. That's what you should do. Find out what you love, find out why you love it, and then make your own. And that's kind of the equation that I follow when it comes to all my art. And people can say like, oh, people can't say about this that it looks or feels like anything else really, because it's so evolved over the period of time that I don't even know what it is anymore. It's just kind of something that pours out of me, and I look at it, I'm happy, and I walk away. So, I mean, a lot of artists are mistaken. I think they make a beautiful painting that kind of looks like a Basquiat or looks like something. They sell it. They get this high, like, oh my God, I made it. I sold this painting, and I'm going to make another one because it worked. That's not necessarily going to work all the time, and it's not going to work over time. So if your business model is based off someone else's intellectual property or someone else's style, you should stop now and just focus on something that's going to bring you joy because you made it yourself, not because you saw it in a book and it inspired you, but then you sat there and copied it a million times and then you got good at copying it and now you're an artist. Like, no, that can't happen anymore. It's diluting the whole culture. Why do we have to see soup cans and Mickey Mouses all the time? Like, why can't we just see some new stuff? And it may not be as good, but that's okay because they're the greats. We're not supposed to produce. We're skipping steps. If you're making soup cans all the time, I mean, Andy Warhol made that soup can at the end of his career, and it happens to be the most iconic image probably in the art world ever. Why do you think it's okay for you to use it in your art over and over again and sell it? Like, you haven't earned that yet. You have to work your way up to the soup can. And a lot of artists and a lot of galleries don't understand that. And it's important that we understand what came before us, but it's more important to make new. Because what's the point? Like, if we're stuck in the past and making things that remind us of the past all the time, then what's going to be the future? What's the new? What's the new art culture? I don't know. I'm just like, I guess I'm biased and I get angry sometimes when I see things that people shouldn't be putting in galleries or putting out in general, because if it's something that you really love to look at, put it in your apartment. Don't try to sell it. You know, you try to sell art that doesn't belong to you, even though you created it, it's still not right. I don't know. I'm just, when it comes to the subject, I don't really like talking about it.
It's a fine line.
Yeah.
It really is. And I relate to everything you said. You know, there is a big difference between influence and theft of somebody else's ideas.
On another note, since you brought up Keith Haring, one cool thing, probably the coolest thing that happened to me in my career in 2017, I noticed on my Instagram that the Keith Haring Museum in Japan, the Nakamura Keith Haring collection, have liking my work. Like, every single thing I post, they were liking it. And I was like, wow. So I knew this woman, Aya, beautiful woman, so sweet. And she was trying to get into selling art at the time. And she spoke fluent Japanese. She's from Japan. So I told her, can you reach out to the Nakamura Museum and ask them if there would be any way that we can set up a live painting exhibition? Just threw it out there, because like, that was such a goal of mine, to like be recognized by Keith Haring's organization or anything to do with Keith Haring. So she reached out and they got back right away. And I painted live in 2017, flew to Japan, painted live at the museum, and they have my painting in their collection now. I'm part of the Nakamura Keith Haring collection. And then what they said to me is, your work captures his energy, his essence. It doesn't look like his, it's not his, but it captures his essence. Because the way that I painted, so I got really nervous for the first time. They set me up in this courtyard, this beautiful courtyard in Japan. The museum's to my back, Mount Fuji's in front of me.
Wow. And
it's just an empty canvas. Now there's a bunch of people behind me taking photos. And I was saying to myself in my head, like, and I didn't have spray paint. They didn't have any spray paint. So I'm painting this painting with a marker, and I'm doing all the shadowing with black pastel. So I'm thinking in my head, like, these people are here to see an artist that has to have the energy and the essence of Keith Haring. So I'm thinking about him in the subways, painting those chalk paintings like fast because he's going to get arrested. I painted a full painting, 48 by 60 in 38 minutes. Oh, 28 minutes.
Wow.
So I didn't even know what was going on. I put my headphones on and I just kind of went into my zone and I was just like in bliss at that moment. And I was just enjoying the moment. So when I turned around, the director came up to me, who lives in Soho, and she also works in this gallery, this museum in Japan. So we like kind of hit it off because we were both New Yorkers. And she shows me her phone. She was like, I timed you. She was like, you painted this painting in 28 minutes. And I was just like, wow, like that's kind of crazy. And I just got caught in the moment, but I was really just trying to paint fast as he would. So all these people like kind of were like gathering around me. It was just like a surreal experience. But then afterwards, I asked them, what's going to happen to the painting? Oh no, it's part of our collection now. And they like kept the painting and they still keep in touch. What an amazing experience. Just reaching out on Instagram. Like, and I have like, I'm such a young artist. I have a museum exhibition like under my belt, like a live painting exhibition at a museum, a major museum. Mm-hmm. So like things like that just kind of reassured me that like there's a connection between him and me. And I don't know why. I mean, I've been drawn to Keith Haring's work since I'm like a little kid, like 9-10 years old. So, I mean, I just thought that was a cool story that I should share with you since you kept on mentioning Keith Haring. And not many people know about that because it wasn't like press or anything on it. It was just something that I did because I had to do it, like it was just such a great opportunity. And then I wound up staying in Japan for 4 weeks.
Wow. And
I did a bunch of cool stuff out there. I had a little show. I went with the producer BDB. You know Brian?
Yeah, we met at Basel.
Oh my God, what a great guy. He's been my close friend since the very beginning. I met him when I met you. Mm-hmm. So it's been, 6 years of friendship, but we went together and we had a show together in Japan and we painted live at a few like clubs and bars. It was surreal experience being in Japan, and that culture is amazing. The country's beautiful. I just thought I'd share that Keith Haring experience.
Beautiful story, and it had to have been a high in terms of
God. It was incredible. It was so incredible.
Accomplishment. You think that's your favorite moment of your career so far?
Oh yeah, for sure. Okay. Definitely one of my favorite moments of my life. Not just my career. It was just so surreal to be in that situation, but all these people, like the director of the museum is like talking to me as if I was someone special, something special that she witnessed. And that made me feel like I've never felt that before, because her job is to sort out Keith Harings, and put them in the museum, the coolest job in the world. And she saw the value in my work and in me, and that was just amazing. It was just a great, humbling experience. And I hope more like that happens. Like, that would be amazing to go to like another museum affiliation or something like this early in my career. We'll see. But I just thought it was a cool story to share because Keith Haring just seems to be popping.
Beautiful story. It's a beautiful story, and I love just seeing the progression of your work and the success that you've had since I met you in the back of a U-Haul truck in Wimbledon. So you've certainly had a fast track to success, and I know that comes from your work ethic, your grit, your perseverance, and just this very much unique voice that you do have amongst your peers.
I appreciate
congratulations.
Thank you.
If anyone has any questions for Flore, do jump into the comments while we wait for that. I think we had a little problem with Facebook this morning, so we are going to just post the YouTube link directly to Facebook right after this.
Okay.
But if anyone has any questions, jump into the comments. Tell us what's next. What's on your wish list? What are you hoping for?
So right now I'm trying to finish this loft, and I'm going to rent it out and move back to New York. But so here's my new project. I bought a DeLorean, the Back to the Future car. So DeLorean, I didn't buy it for Back to the Future because I really don't care for those movies. They're cool, but that's not why I bought it. DeLorean himself was the youngest president of GM. Like, the man was like an American legend and quit his job at the top to create his own car, like his own brand, his own car. And he like passionately followed this. Like, he almost lost his whole life over this. He got arrested, all this crazy stuff. Crazy story following his passion. But DeLorean, the company, opened in Orlando, Florida. I don't know how long ago. I don't know how long they've been there, but they're releasing brand new DeLoreans, like 20 every year.
Wow.
And I just got my hands on one. And I think I'm going to do what I do to the furniture to the DeLorean. I'm going to like reupholster the interior, maybe like houndstooth, something crazy. And then I think I'm going to make that like part of my brand, like that car, and rent it out. I mean, Miami's like the car renting mecca of the world.
Right.
Turn it into like a little business, like rent the car out, maybe rent the loft out with the car as like an artist experience. I don't know. I'm just trying to figure out how I can get back to New York and still make money at the loft in Miami. So that's another business, I guess, tactic. But yeah, that's my next project, this DeLorean. I'm supposed to get it in a week.
Nice. Amazing. Well, I look forward to keeping up with your progress and seeing the photographs. And before we jump off, just let everybody know where they can find out more about you.
I guess my Instagram is by Flore. And yeah, I guess that's the best way to see what I'm doing and see what's going on in my life, in my career. But yeah, reach out if you have any questions. If I didn't answer them now, like, just reach out to me on Instagram.
Awesome. All right. Well, it's been a pleasure chatting with you. It's nice to catch up and hear all your adventures. And thank you again. And folks, we'll be back tomorrow, same time, 11 o'clock for Coffee with Artists. Thanks so much.
Bye.